Oh, welcome into the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. Figure that out because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. And welcome in. It is a wonderful Wednesday. I actually had a plan. I had a top secret plan of something to do on the show today. And then I totally forgot about it. So we're actually in sadness. We're going to drop the desk down just a little bit. I had a really great plan. I think I'm going to start doing it next week. I feel like next week is going to be the time to roll out this new idea on the show. And we'll see if it works. And if it does, great. And if it doesn't work, we'll just act like it never happened. And you guys will all forget that I ever brought it up. So it's pretty much a foolproof plan. But anyway, we have a lot to get into today. It is a great day here on the Russ Joy Show. I want to thank everybody who's joining over on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And don't forget, if you're on X, you have to click the video first, go into Periscope mode. You can drop a comment. If you're on Facebook or on YouTube, just put it over in the comment section. And we're all good to go. We're hunky-dory. But do me a favor, like the video, share the video, and subscribe. We have a lot going on. I just fit a lot of words into a very, very small amount of time. That, in a way, is, in its own interesting way, kind of impressive. Some might claim that it's at least a somewhat impressive thing to do. So, we are going to get into a lot today. If you paid attention to the thumbnail, the name of the episode, whatever, you will notice we have to talk about Matvei Michkov getting robbed. He's also doing something in Russia in the not-too-distant future, an all-star game of sorts, so we'll get there. Chris Sims remains an absolute buffoon, an idiot, a dope, adult, a nothing, and a terrible football analyst. We're going to get there as he continues his hate campaign against Jalen Hurts. Oh, and by the way, the U.S. men's national team got their doors blown off in the first half, a 4-0 deficit at halftime. 4-0 deficit at halftime. Absolutely disgusting. Flat out disgusting effort. No Christian Pulisic. There are more guys that are missing from the senior squad. We're a year out from the start of the World Cup in these United States of America. I don't know what's burning more, Los Angeles or the U.S. men's national team. We'll get there a little bit later on. If you haven't figured this out already, you can see down in the bottom of the screen we have the running comment section. I'll try to get to as many of those as I can throughout the course of the episode. You, of course, can send over your questions. I'll get to as many of them as I can. If for some reason you feel like doing so, you can also leave a super chat, which just kind of goes, I mean, let's be honest. A super chat that you send over pretty much goes right to video guy Amadeo's budget for the month. So, you know, you're helping that guy out. It ain't helping me, it's helping him. And since he helps us with the channel, then you are vicariously helping the channel by helping Amadeo. So you can send a super chat if you want. You don't have to, but you can. If you do, I'll pull your comment up on the screen unless it's horribly offensive. So make of that what you will. Now, I do want to go out to the comments as quickly as possible, and then we gotta dive right into it because there's a whole bunch of stuff around Michkov. And I already saw somebody comment over on X. They didn't do the thing where you click the video first, and they said, Michkov was not robbed. We're going to get there in a second because it's just driving me nuts. All right. Chris Freed asks, can we deport the U.S. men's national soccer team? Maybe. Probably wouldn't be bad. I'd actually rather import the U.S. men's national team because the guys that are currently with the squad, many of them don't belong. And many of them, if they end up being on the senior team, if they end up being on the national team next year for the World Cup, may as well not even play. The U.S. is very lucky at this point that there's that automatic qualification because they're hosting a World Cup, because otherwise they'd have no shot in hell. It is pathetic. Greg Bondarenko's here, says, good afternoon, all. Chris also says, finally, some movement on the new arena. Only took 6 months, but an architect was selected. At this rate, the new arena will be ready for America's big birthday in 2076. Guess we have to trust the process. Yeah, I didn't even really intend on going there on the show today. We can. They picked the same architect who's responsible for designing the Sphere and is working on the Bills' new stadium. So they've decided on an architect. Why it took this long, why it took this many months from the time that they announced that the Sixers were abandoning the Market East arena, the downtown arena, and that they were going to go in on it with the Flyers and Comcast. Why it took so long, I don't know. Why it took so long to get this architect, I don't know. Did they have somebody else who was lined up and that person fell through? I don't know. It does seem a little bit weird that we're that far removed from the actual announcement. By the way, we don't really have much in the way of an update on the location of that arena. As I've said to you guys before, I have heard from a few people that the idea could be to do something towards the Navy Yard. And I don't think it's a mistake that in the past we have heard the Philadelphia Union also get kind of mentioned. And so I've had this thought for a while. Could they at some point look to move the Union out of Chester? They're doing a lot of building up in that area. They have this whole plan that they were supposed to execute when they first built Subaru Park down in Chester. Seems maybe less likely now that they would move, but if there's an incentive attached to it, maybe they would. I don't know. Would be kind of nice to have the Union down with the rest of the teams, but though that would hurt Chester. And, people need to have jobs and people need to, I don't know. You don't want that whole area that you've now started to work to build up to just go vacant, unless that's now just going to be a practice area. Maybe that's where the Union 2 team plays, the Subaru Park, but that's way too big for Union 2, so I don't know what they would do there. We're going to keep going. Video guy Amadeo says, greetings from Citizens Bank Park. Greg Bondarenko says, did I see a draft party announcement by the Flyers? You did. You'll also notice that we are not part of that. We being Snow the goalie. And there's a reason for that. And we're going to get to that reason on the next episode of Snow the Goalie. At least that's the hope. We have a couple details on things that we're looking to button up before we fully dive into it. But I can tell you that when it comes to the actual party itself, we have nothing to do with that. We're doing something else. And I think the thing that we're going to do is ultimately going to be better content. I'm actually very confident that it's going to be better content overall than what we would have done if we had been part of the draft party itself. This other thing that we're working on, I think, is ultimately going to be significantly better. We're just waiting to clear a couple of hurdles. And for better or worse, those are things that you kind of have to deal with when you're working with a team. You have to, a whole bunch of people have to sign off on shit. It shouldn't be that complicated. It really, but here we are. Connor Buss over on YouTube says, good afternoon, Russ. U.S. men's national team talk. Positives, 7 current or former Union players on the roster. Bad news, the team is probably getting grouped next summer. It's bad. It is, listen, it's a testament to the Union organization, to the Union Academy, all that stuff, that they have these players at the senior team level. But, you have a bunch of omissions. You have a bunch of very important players that aren't playing. And, I'm not going to go Alexi Lawless on you here today, but the fact that you watched Cristiano Ronaldo at 40 years old breaking down into tears as he helped Portugal to win the Nations League, you see that. He's still playing at age 40. And I'm supposed to believe that coming off of I'm sure, a tough Serie A season for AC Milan, Christian Pulisic couldn't be with the U.S. at the Gold Cup. A few other guys that are at least relatively important, or should be relatively, they need a break. We'll get there a little bit later on in the show. Ford is here. Everybody can take a deep sigh of relief. Ford is here. JH says, I love the chaotic energy of the Russ Joy Show starting whenever it starts. That is part of the beauty of this, guys. Seriously, it is. It is part of the beauty of the show right now. And I think it's probably going to remain like that for much of the summer. The idea of trying to, get a specific time is going to be tough. My work schedule kind of fluctuates with meetings and everything, so I can't dedicate or I can't, say, yes, this time specifically. And the numbers on the show, just overall on the podcast feed and on YouTube, have been better since going to this floating sort of afternoon show than what they were at 8:30 in the morning. So, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Catholic Nono says, soccer, oy vey. Well, if you're really a nono, you should know it's called calcio. Didn't we talked about this on the last episode. There's calcio storico. We saw the calcio storico. It looked a bit scary. But we saw calcio. Come on, Catholic Nono. You got to do better than that. Per favore. Connor says, the Swiss are one of the sneaky good teams, to be frank, but we are such a dumpster fire of a national team. That is true. Amadeo said, I had to work while burning in the sun. Yeah, I was in a meeting, and Amadeo texted me, and he said, are you going to go live today? And I said, yeah, at some point. I don't know when. And Amadeo and I have not yet gotten to the synergetic moment yet where he just makes a thumbnail without my input as a backup, because there are times that I'm very difficult to work with because I forget to message him until 10 minutes before I want to set up the stream. So he had to make the thumbnail from Citizens Bank Park. And I know it's a great thumbnail. So Amadeo, good on you. Now, unfortunately, as soon as the Phillies game is over, Amadeo then has to run home and start chopping this show up. Because in fairness, people on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, they need their steady dose of the Russ Joy Show. I can't help that. That's just something that is required by the people. And in fairness, if the game currently holds as it has been holding, looks like the Phillies are going to beat the Cubs today. I know that the bullpen is going to have to get involved here. But 6-1 so far in the 7th inning. Not bad. Not bad at all. Now, I have not been watching it because I've been in meetings all day, but I did see young Jesus Luzardo, who we all love and all want to believe in, had himself a really strong bounce-back performance. 6 innings, gave up 1 run. I'm not ready to say that Jesus Luzardo is all the way back, but I am ready to say that that's a very big positive. And 10 strikeouts on the day, no walks. I take that as a big positive. So Amadeo is going to be thrilled, and he should be thrilled. Jim Grasso over on YouTube says, Michkov played 1,334 minutes and had 63 points. Hudson played 1,864 minutes and had 66 points. Michkov played 530 minutes less than Hudson and was only 3 points behind. He should have played closer to 1,700 minutes. All of that is true. Jim says, Torts robbed him of the Calder. There is some truth to that, but if you say that, then you get the weird Torts fanboys who I think maybe they're starting to stabilize now, but all of the really, really weird Torts fanboys, I think a lot of them have started to stabilize and remember that they were a fan of the team and not just a coach, but they might. I actually do think, because I brought this up towards the end of the season, that when Michkov went on that run after Torts got fired, that point streak, and he was scoring goals, I was like, not that I really thought that Michkov was going to get 80 points as a rookie, because that would have been insane. I thought he was going to be closer to 80, like if he had played the minutes that he probably should have played this season and played like a little bit more of an open, free kind of game. Maybe he could have been closer to 80 than where he finished. Doesn't mean he would have gotten to 80. Doesn't mean they would have set like rookie scoring records. I'm not saying that. But I think he would have had more points, which obviously would have helped his case for the Calder. And there were people, I can't believe that he's still obsessed with John Tortorella. I can't believe he said that. Torts, everything. And I was like, okay, let's just take a break. All right? And I think that some of these weirdos, and there are many of these weirdos, I like to imagine that it was like, let me see, can I find it really quick? I think this is the beauty of not having a producer on this show. Some of these people, I'm pretty convinced, are like Helga Pataki. Okay? I am pretty convinced that some of the people who still, for whatever reason, will defend Torts to the death, I think that those people are just like Helga Pataki. And I have to imagine that these people, they go into the back of their closet and they push their clothes out of the way, and there is a bubblegum shrine made to John Tortorella in some of these people's closets. And I imagine that they take, maybe they've had a couple of Torts' mustache hairs, and they add it to the bubblegum shrine. That's what I imagine that some of these people do.
I can't be critical. Michkov wouldn't have had any more points. Torts did a great job. It had nothing to do with it. The benching and the scratching had nothing to do with it. The 500 fewer minutes they got played than Hudson has nothing to do with it. He wasn't going to win the Calder. Okay, cool. Anyway, we're going to get to Michkov here in a second. Connor Buss also says, Michkov revenge season incoming. Let's see. Greg Bondarenko says, I don't see a sophomore slump for Michkov. I agree. Alex is talking about the Union here. Says, I hope they don't move out of Subaru Park. It's truly a beautiful park. I also got your email, Alex. I got it. I didn't get to read it yet, but I saw it. Reed DeFord says, Maxime can get the Calder Award next year for the Flyers. Oh! That's right. This is another aside. But I upset people on Twitter. I can't believe I did it again. I really upset some of these people. So, as I talked about on Monday, I was just pointing out that it had been a few days since somebody, a jackass, put, I have intel that Maxim Shabanov is signing with the Flyers. And it had been days, and I was just pointing out that, the people who are trying to gain clout from that are very clearly full of shit, right? Well, I upset somebody, and I don't know how long this person has followed me on Twitter. I don't even know if they still are after our back and forth. But this person tried quote tweeting me last week because I made mention to the fact that, you got to be careful who you're getting your information from, right? And, I did the thing where, you find the quote tweet of somebody who, slandered you and or your show, and I fired back. A lot of people who have, aggregator stuff, or a lot of people who, are, trying to be media people, they don't handle getting pushback very well. But there was a report that came out yesterday. And when I say a report, I mean it was a direct comment from Shabanov's agent. Now, in fairness, this does not mean that Shabanov has not picked a team yet. However, Shabanov's agent told RG Media that despite reports, he has not agreed with the Flyers. He's not agreed to terms with the Flyers. His agent says he'll decide after the NHL draft and free agency. This, by the way, is something that was also put out, I believe, by Hockey News Hub, who I do have some trust and belief in because Hockey News Hub was at the forefront of things on the Michkov developments. I saw Alex Appleyard, who does a really good job for a bunch of outlets, including PHLY, and I forget the name of some of the other ones, but he does a lot of stuff. He's everywhere. And he's a European-based guy. And so Alex also put something out about how, a bunch of these KHL guys are probably going to wait until July 1st. So, you're talking about post-NHL draft, and you're probably talking about post a good part of free agency. They want to see how these teams are going to develop. They're going to want to see how these rosters fill out. And then some of these KHL guys are going to choose a team. I merely responded to that, and I kind of put out a clip from Monday's show, and I upset some people. And so I guess I owe people an apology. If you are somebody who had a Twitter account that I was largely unaware of, and you have 160 followers, or maybe even 200 followers, and I genuinely didn't know that you put out a report, you put out the screenshot, and you took my comments as slandering you, I want to apologize because I clearly had no clue. But there is a dolt, a dope, a nitwit who claimed having intel, who's 100% full of shit. And that's the person I was talking about. And then there were some people who were kind of trying to fan the flames with it, but it was dumb. Here I was just trying to be nice, not put a single person on blast, doing generalities, and I upset somebody who I didn't intend to upset. I didn't even know that they put a thing out. But then they kind of went after me and after Snow the goalie. You can't do that. I mean, I'm like a yippy chihuahua, you know? I won't bite you, but if you do something to piss me off, you're gonna, I'm gonna draw blood. Just how it works. Draw blood in the figurative sense over on the Twitter. Reed DeFord is the one who said this before. Can get the Calder Award next year. Gary Oak asks, does it bother anyone else that Tippett acts like last season was a good one for him and seems so above criticism? I don't know what that refers to, but I have been saying Tippett would be my first forward that I would look to trade, and my first defenseman I'd look to trade is Cam York. And if there is a good deal to be made for either of those guys, I'd drive them to the Greyhound bus. I would. They wouldn't want to get in the car with me and drive, but I would say it's worth it. I don't think Tippett's worth the contract that he has. I think that Tippett has shown these beautiful flashes of brilliance. He's a fast skater. He has these moments where he can do spinorama goals, but then he has, 14, 15 game stretches where he can't hit the broadside of a barn. And that to me is a concern. And it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. There are other teams that would probably look at him as a high upside young player, and they're 100% in on him. Cool. Go get an asset. Go get something back for him. Include him to move up in the draft. Include him to bring back defensive help. Help on the blue line. I don't know. He's not it for me. And Cam York, I've been on the record here. I just think they have too many small defensemen. And Cam York, to me, is the least appealing of the small defensemen they have. And I certainly would not give him a lot of money in restricted free agency. JH asks, Snow the goalie relationship on the rocks? Nope. We're in a good spot. We just need the team to agree to a few things, and then we'll be in really great shape. Let's see. Gary asks, any word on Ryjo's injury scam situation? No. I have no idea what's going on with it. I won't call it a scam. I don't know what happened. I think it went to arbitration, right? And I haven't seen anything. Rob South asks, Flyers draft party, will Russ and Snow the goalie be there? Our intention is to be somewhere, but it will not be front and center at the party. But the plan is for us to be somewhere. And it would be somewhere that would make for very good content. But that's all I can tell you for now, until we get the 100% confirmation. Brady Tremblay, talking about the men's national team, says our Euro-based players don't care and our MLS players aren't good enough. That is probably true. I've seen people defending the Euro players. We're going to talk about them in a little bit. Jerry Martin says Lazardo looked great today. Indeed. Amadeus is the same thing. Zach O is here, says, oh yes, and also happy hump day. Hey there, happy hump day.
Ford says, I put on the U.S. soccer game last night. I had it on for genuinely 30 seconds, and Switzerland scored. Almost no defense. Guy ran down the field, passed it across the net. Dude kicked it in. Looked laughably easy. That is correct. Connor Buss says, the tax breaks the Union get for being in Chester are probably way too good to leave. That is true. The stadium could be a potential NWSL stadium for a future Philly franchise. That would be interesting. Would be interesting. Amadeo said, hey, remember when the NHL and NBA decided to make 2 to 3 day gaps between games for the finals? Great stuff. I mean, I complained about this on the show, right? And then there's somebody who said,
you want to see the very best that the players have to give. You can't criticize the NBA and the NHL for having to. You want them to play on back-to-back nights?
yes, I do. Yes, I want them to play on back-to-back nights. And I would give them a full day off as they travel to the next city, and I'd want them to play on the second day, because when you have these gaps, it makes the series feel largely disjointed. Now, you could maybe make a case that because of the distance between Edmonton and Florida, that needs to be more than a day, and I might be able to meet you there. I might. It just feels like these series are disjointed. And I think I said this on Monday. I might have. I told somebody over the weekend, I was like, it was plus 144 at DraftKings to get the Panthers and the Thunder both to win after they both fell into an 0-1 hole. And I texted this person a couple nights ago, and I said, hey, did you place that bet? And he said, no. And to me, that was like the easiest money to make. But I don't really bet on sports, and so I didn't get to benefit from it, but somebody will. I guarantee you there are people who did. Let's see. Jerry says, I think Torts both hurt and helped Michkov in the manner of he had to learn the North American game, and he had to learn the importance of 200-foot hockey, but it drastically impacted his offensive game. JH says that he has a shrine to Michkov and McDavid in a Flyers jersey. Okay. Amadeo said Bohm hit a moonshot. I did not see that. We are here. Jim says Shabanov playing hard to get. I like it. Let's see. Connor says Bohm might finally get more RBIs than temper tantrums thrown in a single month. Let's not get crazy here. Amadeo says about Tippett, put him in a package for Robertson, who, by the way, you're now seeing more and more national people picking up the story that Robertson might be available from Dallas. I still don't know if that's true. Like, I still don't know if it's ultimately going to happen. But if Robertson's available, like, you move heaven and earth to try to bring that guy in here. Legitimate 40-plus goal scorer. You bring that guy in. You have the assets. Figure it out. As long as it doesn't include the number 6 overall pick, like, we're good. Figure it out. Let's see. Rob also says, I was totally hoping you'd be there at the draft party. Would love to hang and chat in person for once. Possible. Like, if this goes the way that I expect it to, we might be somewhere in or around where the draft party is, but not front and center at the draft party. Again, I'll have to explain this on Snow the Goalie once we get confirmations. Connor says, at least McKinney, Weston McKinney, has the excuse that he'll play at the Club World Cup. Pulisic isn't even playing this summer. I love him, but this was the wrong move. You need to lead this team if you're the face of the team. I think that's fair. By the way, it was CBS Golazo, I think it was their account on Twitter. They put out a graphic, and front and center in the graphic is Christian Pulisic, right? Because the World Cup's a year away. And I get it because he's the face of the U.S. team. This is a bad look. Him not playing is a bad look. I don't care what anybody says. I think it's legitimately bad. Gary Oak says about Tippett, he was referring to interviews and responses to media questions. He says he had talent, but with Florida trading him for Giroux, maybe they saw his entitlement, they being Florida. I don't know if it was that. I'd be kind of surprised if it was that. Chris Freed says the finals schedule is all based on TV and what TV wants. It's all about the Benjamins. Well, in fairness. Let's see. Amadeo says, can the Flyers make a special set for video guy Amadeo? Oh, a seat. He said a set and then a seat. If video guy Amadeo wants to show, we might have to. Do we loop in video guy Amadeo for what we're doing that day? That could be interesting. JH says, Snow the Goalie draft party live from the Craps table at Hard Rock. No. Hey, Chris reposted the stream. Thanks, Chris. Good on you. I appreciate that. How about it? And Alex D says the answer to all of your questions is money. That is true. Let's talk about money. Let's talk about a guy, and we're 25 minutes exactly into the show, and I've gone through as many comments as I can. Let's talk about a guy who will make a lot of money in his career, and a guy who's straight up money for the Philadelphia Flyers this season. That's Matvei Michkov. Now, you will notice that Mishkov's name is going to be out there a lot this summer, and for a whole bunch of reasons. But first and foremost, we have to get to some unfinished business, to some
unresolved anger that a lot of people who spent the season watching Matvei Michkov are probably feeling right now. And that most notably is the results of the Calder Trophy vote. Now, for those who might have missed it, Lane Hutson's the guy that everybody pretty much expected to win the Calder. He's a defenseman. He put up 66 points. He was the darling of the Canadiens. And if we know one thing about many of the voters for NHL awards, they tend to favor Canadian players. And there is some weird fascination with the Québécois, about l'habitant. And so Lane Hutson, the darling of the voters, wins the Calder Trophy in an absolute bloodbath. I mean, like, it wasn't even close. Now, I'll show you the standings here. So Lane Hutson, I'm going to take the comments down here too. Lane Hutson gets 165 of the available first place votes. 165 of the first place votes. Okay, fine. Dustin Wolf of Calgary gets 15 of those first place votes. You go, all right, rookie goalie, put up a really nice season. 15 first place votes. That's interesting, but okay. Another Canadian player. Celebrini entered the season as the favorite to win the Calder. Through much of the season was viewed as a front runner or one of the top two to probably win the Calder. He gets 11 first place votes. Oh, Matvei Michkov. I don't know if you heard about him. Matvei Michkov, a really good forward for the Philadelphia Flyers. A very talented forward for the Philadelphia Flyers. A guy who led rookies in goals and power play goals and a lot of other important metrics. Matvei Michkov, does he finish number 1, number 2, or number 3? He does not. He finishes 4th, and it's a distant 4th. If we're being fair, he got nearly 3x'd on total points, total voting points. He nearly got 2x'd by Celebrini, which is also like total bullshit and honestly kind of embarrassing. But you look at it and you have to do the breakdown here on points, but 165 votes for Hutson, 15 for Wolf, 11 for Celebrini. They're the only 3 players to get a first place vote. Second place, you get 26 for Hutson, 96 for Wolf, 61 for Celebrini. Third place votes, like, what are we doing here? 26 for Hutson, 59 for Wolf, 106 for Celebrini, 26 third place votes for Michkov. Michkov gets 151 fourth place votes. Now listen, call me crazy, okay? Like, legitimately, go ahead and call me crazy. This is some of the dumbest shit I've ever seen. And if you want to try to make the case that Michkov shouldn't have won it, right? You want to make the case that Hutson, because he plays defense, should have, I don't know, been the number 1 guy. Fine. I don't totally agree with it, but fine. But I'm sorry, man. Like, Celebrini, the argument had been that Celebrini had played fewer games than Michkov. But if you look at total minutes, I think Michkov and Celebrini were very close. The argument's been made, well, Michkov is a winger. We're going to value centers, we're going to value defensemen, we're going to value goalies more than a winger. Okay, so now, because he can't control his position because he plays wing, he's apparently not good enough. I just don't totally know. Michkov had, 63 points on the season, 25 goals? Wasn't he 18 when the season, or he was 19 when the season started? I don't know, man. Call me crazy, right? But Michkov was second among rookies in points. And he's 4th in voting for the Calder. I don't know. Make it make sense. Michkov didn't exactly, by the way, Michkov didn't exactly do anything wrong this season, right? He was benched a few times. He was scratched a few times. All of that's fine. All of that's fair. Can have the argument about whether or not that's a good thing. Can have the argument about whether John Tortorella's decision-making might have cost Michkov the Calder. You can do that whole thing. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be a total jackass here. But I do think that there's a chance that it affected where he ultimately finished. And I think that, once again, if you're looking at total games played, total minutes,
maybe you could try to make the case that Michkov shouldn't have won it, but like, I don't know. Like, what are we doing here? Legitimately, like, what are we doing? Reed DeFord has the actual point. This is the truth. It's politics. If he was born in Canada, it would have been unanimous. I've been long joking, but if his name had been like Matvei Michkov, and he was from Montreal, il parle français, québécois, il aime le poutine. Then, I don't know, if Matvei had been French, would he have won the Calder? I don't know. If he had played for les Habitants de Montréal, would he have been the Rookie of the Year, the Calder? I don't know. Je ne sais pas. But what I do know is that because his name is Matvei Michkov, and he is from Russia, and the Canadian media do not like the Russian player, Matvei, number 4. This is a crock of shit. This is crock of very bad borscht. Okay, this is not good. I don't know what we're doing here. In fairness, Matvei Michkov probably should have been somewhere around number 2, maybe number 3. But number 4? That is a load of number 2, if you understand what I'm saying. I'm saying it is shit. Okay, so, is there voter bias? Is there an anti-Russian voter bias? Methinks, yeah. I'm thinking, yeah. JH says, complete bullshit. He got robbed. Lame Fraudson. Son of Lane Hudson. Lame Fraudson is a damn joke. Zacho says if his name was Matthew Miller from Ontario, he would have won. Huge Russian bias, and it's not even funny. Alex says, I'm trying to get more into hockey, but I feel like every graphic I saw for the Calder Trophy finalist, Michkov was 2 or 3 every time. The drop-off is insulting. I agree. Brian Knowlton says, the biggest problem I've had since he wasn't named a finalist is that he played for and was successful for one of, if not the toughest head coaches to play for. And by the way, like, here's the other thing. It's not like you can hold against him the fact that the Flyers didn't make the playoffs. Like, that wouldn't exactly be fair now, would it? So, there you go. Chris says, Flyers have missed the playoffs for 5 straight years, and it has left us whining about who won the rookie award. Mr. Snyder is turning over in his grave right now. He's probably punching out from the ground and wants to, like, choke out a couple of dumb media people. I just have a really hard time with it. Like, 8 people voted him as second place for the Calder? Like, what are we doing? 26 people voted him third? Like, what are we doing here? What's the point? Okay, so that's that part. Now, there is another bit of news around Michkov, and I mentioned Hockey News Hub before, and Hockey News Hub, I think, is the one who broke this news, certainly put it out on Twitter first. So, again, I give the shout-out to Hockey News Hub, who, again, is typically at the forefront of a lot of the info around KHL players. So we're going to continue to give Hockey News Hub credit until something goes horribly awry. But this is the interesting thing. So there is going to be a Russian NHL Stars versus KHL Stars game July 13th at the CSKA Arena in Moscow. And if you look at the lineup of players, it's an impressive one. So this NHL All-Star team is going to have the likes of Ovechkin, Panarin, Shesterkin, Orlov, Nishkinen, Svechnikov. I mean, you have a lot of very, very good players on this team. Oh, by the way, Kuzmenko's on this team. He of former Flyers fame. But, like, you look at this team, there are a lot of talented guys. Oh, Bob is supposed to be there, too. Now, how that's going to work out after the Cup final, I don't know, but he's apparently supposed to be there. Kaprizov, future Flyer, will also be playing. Ilya Kovalchuk, or what's left of him, will be playing. But look at the last name for the NHL team, Matvei Michkov. Now, I know that I've been saying this for a while, and I know I mentioned this on Monday, but what you're going to start to see, and I am very confident in this, what you are going to start to see is that Matvei Michkov is going to ultimately be a massive recruiting asset for the Philadelphia Flyers. Like, I am very confident in it, right? Because even if you want to believe the smoke around Shabanov and whether or not he's going to be a Flyer, most people that have tried to make that leap did so on the back of Michkov following Shabanov on Instagram, Shabanov following Michkov. You look at the kind of season that he put up as a rookie. You look at the kind of
upward trajectory that you very much could believe he'll have if he actually gets to play with a real center, like a real able-bodied center that can keep up with him and is skilled enough and all that. If he gets to play with one of those guys, he can make a 20-point leap next year. He could jump 20 points. Be an 80-point guy next year. Based on what we saw this season, based on a very ineffective power play, he still was able to put up points. Totally within a rational realm that he could get to 80 points next year. So you start to look at that, and you look at his age. You look at a few of the other pieces on this team. You look at, again, the cap space that opens up this offseason, but especially next offseason. If there is a Russian player available, the Flyers have established that pipeline. They have established a pathway to Flyers land, okay? And they're saying, come on over. Bring yourself over, man. Ivan Fedotov, come on down. Alexei Kolosov, I guess, come on down. Matvei Michkov, out of his contract early, which he negotiated with the team. Flyers had nothing to do with it because they're not allowed to talk to the KHL team. We all know this. Matvei Michkov, come on down. If Shabanov ends up over here, come on down. Having this pipeline set up, having this understanding that Russian players are being actively sought after by these Philadelphia Flyers is a good thing. And Michkov, as this young star, this young Russian star, his star is going to continue to grow and is going to continue to get even brighter. I mean, Ovechkin is very close to retirement. I'm not saying that Michkov is automatically going to become like the number one Russian-born player in the NHL in like the next 3 years, but there is a very easy case to be made that he could be one of the focal points of a Russian Olympic team if they're ever allowed back in the Olympics. That's the kind of guy that you want at the forefront of your organization recruiting players in. And he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's got a competitive fire burning within. That's the kind of guy that you want on your team. That's the kind of guy that you want out in front of free agents and trying to recruit players. I think it's going to end up actually mattering a lot. Brian Knowlton asks, where is Fedotov on that list? He is too big. The Iron Giant, much too big for little list. His head pop out of top. He's fine. Nick Johnson says over on YouTube, Michkov is going to bring the talent. I think it's true. And Jerry says the KHL NHL Russian Stars game should be a good one. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere. You have to imagine that it's going to stream somewhere. But that's a game that, like, July 13th, we're going to all be missing hockey. If you're a hockey fan, you're going to be missing it. And it's one of those things that, like, we're all going to want to watch. So hopefully somebody's going to figure out how to get that game streaming. I don't know how that's going to work with the NHL. Like, is the NHL sanctioning, allowing those players to go over and play? If so, will it, like, be on NHL Network? I don't know. But I find it interesting. Now, there's another thing that I found interesting. And by interesting, I meant absolutely infuriating, and I was ready to light myself on fire when I saw it. It is a continuation of one of the dumbest things that exists in all of sports media. It is one of the stupidest stances that any media member has taken. And it is a thing that I still would love to understand, but I'm pretty sure it is as disingenuous as it gets. Now, in fairness, I say this stuff all the time. Media people can go one of a few ways when it comes to assessing a player, when it comes to deciding how they feel about a player, when it comes to evaluating a player. Some people do a real good job. Some people try to sell themselves as experts. Some people try to sell themselves as something else. And then there's this like weird group, a very strange group that I've never fully understood. It's the people who have hot take opinions with nothing to back them up. I will occasionally get accused of being a hot take guy. But I always say it's not a hot take if it's the right take. And quite often I feel like it's the right take. Chris Sims is an ultimate bloviator. He is an ultimate bullshitter. And we're going to dive into this because I'm glad that other national media pundits have started to kind of challenge this notion that somehow it makes sense to have Jalen Hurts 10th on the quarterback rankings. Now, we all know that Chris Sims in the past, he's omitted Hurts. He's left Hurts very low on the rankings, all that. But he released his new list. I'm going to show you his new list because it is one of the dumbest things. And he said, 2025 QB countdown is complete. Here are the top 10 rankings. The top tier especially might be the best we've ever had at one time in NFL history. And now remember, This offseason, we've seen plenty of examples of guys saying, I don't know, does Jalen Hurts make the top 3? Is he top 4? Where does Joe Burrow land? How do you rate Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen? You would think that Mahomes is probably number 1. All right, let's take a look at it. So here's tier 1. Chris Sims calls this the core 4. He says this is the core 4. Lamar Jackson he has as number 1, which is interesting. Josh Allen number 2. Joe Burrow at number 3. Patrick Mahomes at number 4. Now, before I have to give myself a lobotomy to try to put myself on the same mental standing as Chris Sims must have been when he made this list, how is Patrick Mahomes number 4? I like Lamar Jackson a lot, and Lamar Jackson has won multiple MVPs. So maybe you could make the case that he's number 1. But there's the whole Super Bowl thing. There's the whole winning a ring thing or winning multiple rings. The MVPs are nice, but like Lombardi trophies are what you're going after, right? Josh Allen hasn't gotten there. Josh Allen hasn't won a Super Bowl. How's he number 2? Joe Burrow, I will continue to stand by this belief, okay? Joe Burrow's a very good quarterback. Joe Burrow is an overrated quarterback. He's a very good quarterback. He has excellent weapons around him, and it seems like each and every year, Joe Burrow's team starts off very poorly, and then somehow the national media narrative becomes,
Wow, look at the great Joe Burrow. Look at what he's done to pull his team out of a hole once again and get in contention for a playoff spot.
and I always keep coming back to, you keep digging the hole. Like, if you're part of the hole being dug, do we then give you credit for getting back out of that hole? Well, I mean, to some point, but you don't throw a parade for the guy. All right, so Joe Burrow's number 3. Patrick Mahomes, multiple-time Super Bowl winner, MVP, maybe the best quarterback we've ever seen, is number 4, okay? And this is where we get problematic. Surgicality, okay? Jaden Daniels, number 5, coming off a great rookie season. We'd all agree Jaden Daniels, one of the most exciting young quarterbacks in the National Football League. Bar none. Number 5, Matthew Stafford, still an effective quarterback, has won a Super Bowl. Number 6, CJ Stroud, who I like a lot. I do. I really like CJ Stroud. Houston hasn't gotten it done. Now, in fairness to Stroud, multiple injuries at wideout last season. Significant issues in the playoffs. Kind of hard to win with no weapons. I could remake a list. CJ Stroud is probably in that 7 to 8 range. That's fine. Number 8 and 9, Pocket Rockets. Justin Herbert. We want to talk about overrated young quarterbacks. What has Justin Herbert done? What has he won? He's had weapons. What has Justin Herbert done? I like Justin Herbert. Good quarterback. Would be perfectly fine having Justin Herbert on my team. Would be 100% fine with it. Here's the problem. He hasn't won shit. And yet, he somehow is the number 8 quarterback in the league. Baker Mayfield at number 9. Baker Mayfield has had a resurgence in his career. He has rediscovered himself with Tampa Bay. Perfectly fine. Good on you, Baker. Number 9 quarterback in the National Football League. What? And then you get to Jalen Hurts. Number 10, section called The Truth Hurts. Okay, so let's just go back real quick. Okay. First 4, the core 4. Makes sense. It's cute. Surgicality. Is it because they're surging? Is it because Matthew Stafford is surgical with his passing? Pocket Rockets. Mayfield and Herbert both have strong arms. Okay. The Truth Hurts. This is just a douchebag move. We have to call it like we see it. And as you know, I will call it like I see it. This is an ultimate douchebag troll move. There's a point in time where you lose the plot. And Chris Sims has lost the plot. The only reason he has Jalen Hurts at number 10, the only reason, right, is because he wants to piss off Eagles fans. And he wants his bullshit list and his bullshit takes to surge. And guess what? It's going to work. And people are going to check out his stuff. And they're all going to hate him. And that's fine. But that's bullshit. The guy who just won the Super Bowl, the guy who just beat, arguably, the best dynasty in recent memory, that guy, the one who once again outdueled Patrick Mahomes in a Super Bowl, Now, granted, they didn't win the Super Bowl 2 years ago, but point still stands. Outdueled Patrick Mahomes twice in 2 out of 3 Super Bowl appearances in the last 3 years. You mean to tell me that guy's number 10 in the National Football League? No. And also, by the way, calling it the truth hurts. Total bullshit, douchebag troll move. Absolutely awful. Okay. So we have that. Now, mind you, he actually tried to explain it, and his explanation was worse. So we're going to get there in a second. I do want to go out to the comments, though, really quick, because I see people getting very, very worked up out in the comments. So let's just see. I think I pissed somebody off about saying Joe Burrow's overrated. Oh, the audacity. The audacity. Ford says Lamar Jackson's won nothing. What a freaking joke. He's won MVP twice. He's a very good quarterback. He probably belongs in the top 5 somewhere. And again, coming off another MVP, like, you can make the case he could be number 2, number 3. Probably not number 1. Nick Johnson says Jackson, Allen, and Burrow are all great regular season players. None have done anything in the playoffs yet. I'd also point out that Josh Allen got stuffed in the AFC Championship game on a tush push that his coach then said,
It's so dangerous. The tush push is so dangerous.
Sends his quarterback out to run the tush push. And they got stuffed at the goal line. Ford says, I remember when Patrick Waugh said, I cannot hear what he said because of all the Stanley Cup trophies in my ears. Mm-hmm. Nick Johnson says Burrow is super overrated. Ooh. Johnny Pelican says, Burrow overrated? Do you have brain rot? Burrow, best quarterback in the NFL, and it's not even close. Sure. Yeah. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Keep digging those holes. Keep underwhelming. Keep underachieving. Yeah, best quarterback. Yeah, you're right. He's playing with Todd Pinkston and James Thrash. I made them Todd Thrash. James Pinkston. Let's do that. I'm sorry. Burrow's not the best quarterback in the NFL. Stop it. Nick Johnson says, Herbert and Stafford this high. Stroud after a huge drop-off sophomore season. Ford says, dude, Baker Mayfield over Jalen, all-time joke list. Jerry thinks that Sims is a moron. Nick Johnson asks, what has Burrow accomplished in his 5-year career? Connor Bust says, we've got Joe Burrow's burner in the comments. Connor says Burrow should be 5th. Nick Johnson says Mahomes should be number 1, Jackson number 2, Josh Allen number 3, Hurts number 4, Burrow number 5, Jaden Daniels at number 6. That's a pretty fair list. I'd say it's a pretty fair list. Amadeo says maybe Sims is just flat out stupid. Johnny says he dragged a shit team to the Super Bowl basically on his own with 3. Is that 3 exclamations or is that 4? I think it's 3. Maybe it's 4. Let's see. How many exclamation points do we have there? It's a lot. It's more than 1. No. Look at Burrow's numbers the past couple seasons. Yeah, you know why his numbers are so inflated? Because they fucking lose a lot in the beginning of the season. They fall behind a lot in games, which means you have to throw the ball a lot. He has to throw the ball a lot because they're behind and because they lose a lot in the beginning of the season. And then after they've dug the hole, they said to think to themselves,
Joe Burrow, he's amazing. It's incredible. It's amazing. I've never seen anything like it before. Just imagine if he had actual weapons around him. Oh, wait, what's that? He's Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Why not?
fine. He's a really good quarterback. What are we doing here? Stop. Joe Burrow, number 3. Get out. Stop. Jerry Martin says, to be fair, it's hard to win games when your defense is giving up 45 points a game for the first 3 weeks of the season and averages around 30 points per game the rest of the season given up, which is fine. But again, then you have to throw. Burrow gets to throw a lot. Let's see. Johnny says, Burrow was in a Super Bowl, you idiots. Johnny, why are we getting so worked up? Johnny, it's not that serious. If a pelican had that kind of stress, it would probably fall into the water and drown. Don't do that, Johnny. You're better than that, Johnny. I don't even know you, but I want to believe you're better than that, Johnny. Ford says Lamar is at number 1, though. Let's see. Nick Johnson says, I am a fair man. Johnny wants me to grow up. I can't. I have been trying to grow up for the last 17 years. Do you know how many times Johnny's going to trigger my... He's going to upset me. Johnny, since I was 18 years old, I have gone online and I have Googled the same thing every year. Can I have a growth spurt at age, and I put in my age, since 18, I have done. Can I hit another growth spurt at age 18? Yes. can I hit another growth spurt at age 19? Yes. You got up to about 24 and 25, and they start saying, bless your heart. When you get to like 28 and 29, you start getting redirected to pages that look like, remember fish heads and hamster dance? Those kind of sites. Do you remember those? The ones that had like Shockwave or whatever was the plugin. Do you remember that? Those sites? Those that like you could set like the little background song when you got on the website. Remember those? When you tried to have friends, those days, like firing up a Windows 98 computer. Do you remember that? Those are the kind of sites when you get to like age 30 and you're asking if there's another growth spurt. I can't grow up, Johnny. I've been trying for 17 years. Well, almost 17. Because this September, obviously, I'm going to Google, can I have a growth spurt at age 35? Okay? 17 years. At some point, I'm going to stop looking. But this will not be the year. I'm going to be like 90, and like we won't even be typing anymore. I'll just have like the thought, and it's going to populate. Can I have a growth spurt at age 90? And at that point, whatever it is, whatever Elon or whoever has put in our brains at that point is going to be like, no, dumbass, you haven't grown since you were 18. I'll be like, you know what? That's not fair. I'm taller than both of my parents. I should be able to grow more than... This is a whole thing. Johnny, you got me going, Johnny. Why'd you have to do that, Johnny? But Johnny then says, Russ is a legend. I love this. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Amy says eventually start shrinking. Hey, Amy, this is a place for positivity on a Wednesday. It's a wonderful Wednesday. It's time for positivity, not that. I know I'm going to shrink. I'm not looking forward to that. Maybe I can I did see that there's a thing where like you could break your bones intentionally, right? And then they put you in the special casts and your bones like regenerate a little bit, right? And then it stretches your muscles, which can actually cause a lot of problems. But I've seen something about, I think it was on TikTok. It was a guy in like Indonesia or something. He was like 5'8", and he kept doing the thing where they kept breaking all the bones in his body and he stretched it. He looked weird. He looked like, you remember Oscar Pistorius, the runner, the South African runner, the amputee runner, and like his prosthetic legs, they were kind of like this. Remember that? Hold on, how do I do the angle? It was like this, where like they flared out, like his shin had gone like the wrong way or whatever. That's what this person looked like when they stretched from like 5'8" to like 6'4". Like their whole body was like mangled and weird. And I was like, was it worth it? And I bet you that person would look at me and say, well, at least I never have to look up if you can have a growth spurt at age 34. And to that person, I say, screw you. Okay. Connor asks, don't you know it's Short King Summer, Russ? I didn't, but I do now. Okay, this has gone way off the rails. I still have to get to why Chris Sims said he put Jalen Hurts at number 10. I'm like meant to actually get there. Okay, here's Chris Sims explaining how and why, because he's a dumbass troll, how and why Chris Sims put Jalen Hurts at number 10 on his top 10 quarterbacks list. Again, remember, in a section called The Truth Hurts. Let's hear what Chris Sims says. By the way, I would not compare him to this, okay? I would not compare Chris Sims to looking like the model of what an Aryan was supposed to be. I would not mention that Chris Sims looks like he belongs somewhere along the Berlin Wall a few decades back, quite a few decades back. I'm not saying that he looks like somebody that would have probably been in the Stasi. I would not say that. There might have been other people who've said, I certainly would. The buttoning all the way to the top, I hate that look. And I get that like Gen Z or whatever does that kind of stuff now, but like, no, Chris, like you're older than me. Like, no, we don't button to the top button. And by the way, those are really strong. Those look like black buttons on a blue shirt, and you have the collar button down. What are we doing? Chris, what are you doing? Okay, we're gonna keep going.
Away. Yeah. But with him saying all that and all his skill set and the leadership and the mental strength and all that, is he
So, lists a bunch of things that people typically point to with Jalen Hurts being a winner. Okay.
perfect? No. There's a reason he's at number 10. And there's still flaws in his football game that need to be addressed, need to be fixed. And, you know, they win the game still with him not playing perfect. And this is...
They win... Hold on. To recap, he mentioned the leadership and then a few other things that he kind of dismissed. And then he says, they still win the games. Like, even with his issues, they still win the games. Okay. Who was it? It was Jim Morris Sr., right? Hello? You played... No, wait. That was playoffs. Herm. It was Herm Edwards. Hello? You played to win the game. So Chris Sims puts Jalen Hurts, who just won a Super Bowl, outdueled Patrick Mahomes in yet another Super Bowl, puts him at number 10 and says that despite his flaws, the Eagles still win games. Apparently, winning games is not good, or it's not indicative of being a good quarterback. I didn't know that, but apparently that's true. Okay.
This is where, again, I do the dirty work to go, let me decipher here, right? But there's no quarterback in football that has more advantages on the field at the position than Jalen Hurts.
What exactly does advantages mean there, Christopher, Cristobal? What does that mean? He has more advantages because he has an exceptional running back in the backfield. Had him last year. Didn't have him 2 years ago when he outdueled Patrick Mahomes and the defense fell apart in that Super Bowl, which otherwise would have been Jalen Hurts' first Super Bowl win. So, to recap, he's got winning qualities. His team wins despite his flaws. He's a leader. He gets the job done. And yet, that's number 10 behind guys that either haven't sniffed a Super Bowl or guys that put themselves in holes consistently or guys who can't perform in the playoffs and who can't outduel Patrick Mahomes en route to a Super Bowl appearance. So all of those guys who have what some might argue are empty stats, or some of them have empty stats, those guys are all ahead of the guy who just won a Super Bowl and outplayed Patrick Mahomes again. Am I getting that? Like, there's such a lack of logic that the camera died, and I had to switch to the other camera. Here we go. That's how bad Chris Sims' opinion is. That my camera, my main camera, decided to jump out a window. That's how bad this has gotten. Chris Sims, you owe me for the camera that just shut down. What a stupid, stupid, stupid point, once again, by Chris Sims. So he's now extended this nonsense into yet another offseason. Again, he's getting paid to have whatever these opinions are. He's getting paid for this. Can somebody explain it to me? Is this how bad the media landscape has gotten? That Chris Sims continues to get paid for this kind of bullshit? Apparently it is. We're going to have to stick with this camera for a little bit while I try to get the other one fixed while also still somehow doing the show. I don't know how that's going to work, but we're going to try to figure it out because that's what we do here. Now, there's more. Unfortunately, there is more. But in fairness and in an interesting turn of events, it was somebody from another network that happened to bring up what kind of absolute bullshit putting Jalen Hurts at number 10 was. And that is none other than a guy who's had some issues with the Eagles and had some issues with the Eagles this year. And that is none other than Nick Wright. And Nick Wright, oddly enough, went to bat for young Jalen Hurts. Well, let's hear what Nick Wright had to say.
1 to 10, Lamar, Josh, Joe, Patrick Mahomes, Jaden Daniels, Stafford, CJ Stroud, Herbert. The Bake Show is coming in at number 10. Super Bowl MVP, Jalen Hurts. Is this disrespectful?
Again, like they're laughing, as they should.
Yeah, and Chris Sims, let me just let you know right now, if you happen to run into Mama Hurts, she's going to give you a piece of her mind. Let me tell you,
oh, that's right.
Firsthand
I totally forgot about that. If you remember, during the playoffs, there was the thing where Jalen Hurts' mom went out of her way. Oh, there we go. Jalen Hurts' mom found Nick Wright, saw Nick Wright, and chastised him for comments about her son. And so Nick Wright is probably correct to point out that Mama Hurts might come after him. Might come after Chris Sims. All right, let's keep going.
I'm going to pinpoint, though, one guy ahead of him. Having Jalen Hurts behind Justin Herbert it's one of those things where it tells me a lot about the evaluator.
That is correct. So what is it about Justin Herbert that makes him a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts? You would think that on merit, if we're going to try to be fair to Chris Sims, that the argument is Justin Herbert's a better pocket passer, is a more prototypical quarterback. I'm not going to play the race card here, but there's that belief, right, of a certain height, white quarterback, pocket passer that some people feel the best about, which is part of why you don't see some of those same people want to put CJ Stroud higher on a list or Jalen Hurts higher on a list, or they would openly question if Lamar Jackson even belongs in the top 10. There are people like that. I'm not going to go that far, but I will point out that, again, Justin Herbert maybe in your mind is a gunslinger, maybe takes you back to the days of like a Brett Favre, but like again, hasn't won anything and does not in really any way, shape, or form belong ahead of Jalen Hurts. I'd also say that Baker Mayfield doesn't belong there either, but we'll continue.
And what they value and what they don't. And speaking of, listen, what I'm about to talk about here, I am sure I am guilty of. This is not an attack on Chris Sims, I promise.
Ooh.
But
get the flamethrower out for Mr. Sims.
It speaks to just a massive ego.
Ooh.
I just know better
than
the games. The 5 years of evidence and careers and 150 games played between them doesn't matter as much as my eye.
I love that point. This is an ultimate I know better. Now we're gonna stop there with the Nick Wright of it all. But he's right. Nick is right. This is Chris Sims dying on this hill. This is Chris Sims hanging on to this point because he thinks he is a better evaluator of the sport than anyone else. But again, this list is nonsensical at best. Hurts has to be in your top 5, if for no other reason than what he has accomplished in the postseason. If for no other reason than he has been in 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls. And again, has outdueled Patrick Mahomes. That has to put him somewhere in the top 5. I like Jayden Daniels as a quarterback a lot. I really do. I like Jayden Daniels. I think he's going to have a really good a good sophomore season. The only issue is if, the Terry McLaurin contract. But I think that he's going to have a really good sophomore season. I don't know if he's a top 5 guy. I think Burrow probably should have been number 5. If you wanted to make a case that there's like some combination of like Mahomes, Allen, Hurts in the top 3, you want to put Lamar in instead of Allen because of the MVPs, that's fine as well. I don't know how Patrick Mahomes is number 4. Like, none of this makes sense at all. Jerry Martin says, what do you expect? The guy has a regular IQ of like 85 and a football IQ of 27. There's that old clip of Gruden and Gruden going after Sims for not being able to call the play correctly in a practice or in training camp or whatever with the Bucs. It's one of my favorite clips. Let's see. Connor Buss says, Hurts didn't have a running back 2 years ago. I understand that he still had AJ and Devontae and a phenomenal O-line. He proved that he can pass and run and still does it now while having a generational running back. That's the fair point. That's the thing where it's like, if he didn't make that Super Bowl 2 years ago, all right, fine. Like, maybe you could say that he benefited tremendously from having Saquon. But, like, he wins the game. He's not a selfish player. He continues to get you wins. He continues to take you deep into the playoffs. He's taken you to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. Like, I don't know what we're doing here. Like, genuinely, I don't know what we're doing here. Like, if the ultimate goal here isn't to, like, win, if winning isn't the number one metric, I don't know what we're doing here. All right, now the last thing that I wanted to get to today, and it's not going to be a very long point, but it is a point that I think does have to be made. I don't understand what's going on with the U.S. men's national team. And we kind of talked about this early in the episode. But this is really bad. Like, what's happening with the U.S. men's national team and the lack of star players they have playing for the team in the Gold Cup, a year out from the World Cup being in the U.S. and Canada and Mexico. I don't know what we're doing. Like, genuinely, I once again don't know what we're doing. You have no Christian Pulisic. He's not in camp. He's not with this team. We talked about this earlier in the episode, but like Weston McKennie is going to be playing in the Club World Cup. If I had my druthers, I'd rather see him play in the Club World Cup with his team. I think that is a fair reason to not be with the team. But man, oh man, it's bad. You're a year out from the World Cup being here on your home soil. Everything that we have heard, everything that we have been told by the U.S. Soccer Federation is that we're going to get to a point where it's going to matter, and we're going to start to feel everything ramp up. It doesn't feel like it's ramping up right now. It feels like things are getting apathetic among the fan base. It feels like supporters of the U.S. men's national team could not give less of a shit about this team. They can't fill stadiums for these guys. There's no excitement around the World Cup right now. I saw a clip earlier today. It was the LA mayor, I think, who was like, we can't host a World Cup with the city burning like this and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, maybe we shouldn't even host the World Cup because the U.S. men's national team doesn't even belong. Now, I want to get to to one of the people who's probably has the biggest profile or one of the biggest profiles in U.S. soccer. That's former men's national team player Alexi Lalas. He had two big takeaways from last night's drubbing. Again, it was a 4-0 loss to Switzerland, where Switzerland scored all 4 of their goals in the first half. It was horrific. I want to get out real quick to what he had to say about Mauricio Pochettino, the manager of this team, the manager of this squad, who people were excited about when he got hired. I've seen a lot of people turning against him now, but let's go out to what Lawless had to say about Poch, because he's not feeling bad for the coach.
I hope that Mauricio Pochettino is not sleeping tonight. I hope that his staff is not sleeping tonight. I hope that not just the players that are there right now in camp, but the players that are home aren't sleeping tonight. I hope that it's not fear, but I hope that they aren't feel the pressure, because I think they can live up to that pressure, and I think they can harness it for good.
Okay, so that's a little bit more positive than you might have expected. Wants them to turn this whole thing around, turn the program around again a year out from the World Cup. If you're a former player of the U.S. Men's national team, if you've ever had any kind of national pride or played like you don't want this team to fail. They made the change of manager that we were all clamoring for. Like, there's no change to be made. They're not changing the manager. All right, we'll keep going.
But it's going to take a whole lot of work. And so far, you're testing us. And there's only so much that we can, take, and there's so much that we can give. But onward and hopefully upward going forward when it comes to the Gold Cup, and then obviously around the corner.
I cannot imagine it's going to get better in the Gold Cup. I think this team stinks.
For just a handful of games before the World Cup is happening. And like I said, we're barreling down the tracks. It's going to come before we know it. And we've had plenty of time to prepare. And so if it doesn't go right, it's on us.
I think it's on the U.S. Soccer Federation. I really do think that that's where this ultimately lands. I think that's where the biggest issue is. I think that's where the biggest issue lies. Now, there was another thing that he got to, because the big story coming out of this World Cup has been the fact that, for better or worse, and I would once again argue it is for worse, you have top stars on this team, including the captain of it, Christian Pulisic, who's coming off a great season for AC Milan. He's not with the team at the Gold Cup. He's not participating in this Gold Cup. And again, when you are a year out from the World Cup being on your home soil and you're not playing in the Club World Cup, the question once again is, then what are we doing? All right, let's go out to Alexi Lalas on what exactly he thinks of these players taking a break.
I've talked about it before that I took a year off. And, for whatever reason, wanting to take time off, that's fine. But you also have to accept and recognize that there are consequences to your decisions.
I would argue that this choice by Pulisic to not play in this tournament is ultimately going to be a net negative, because it is one of those things where, like, if you're trying to get fringe soccer fans or even get some locked-in soccer fans to care about the Gold Cup, they then look at the team and they go, this is a B team. Like, at best, it might even be like a B- team, a C+ team. I'm not watching that. I'm not watching that shit. Like, this is supposed to be one of those things that kind of, like, you gear up a year out, and no.
Landon's case, he didn't go to the World Cup, okay? In my case, I never played for the national team again and was never called up again. And I knew that was an absolute possibility. So that's where I think
yeah, if you remember, Landon Donovan took time and then didn't make the team. Klinsmann kept him off the roster. A lot of people were upset about it at the time, and it's like, well, keep in mind what he chose to do.
The distinction is here. And I'm not saying that Christian Pulisic should never play for the national team again. But I do think it's a little bit apples and oranges as to, those two types of situations. And, Landon came back, played with the national team. But ultimately, he didn't get to go to the World Cup.
Again, that was the Klinsmann season.
And, Klinsmann has, over the years talked about that decision and stands by that decision. But don't think for a second that Landon's decisions didn't factor in to what Jurgen Klinsmann said.
So you take all of that into consideration, right? You try to take a fair and balanced approach to breaking down the sport, to breaking down what's happening. And to me, it is an absolute failure if you're the captain of the team to opt out and choose not to be there with your team at the Gold Cup. And when they got boat raced, when they got embarrassed, when they got booed off the field at halftime against Switzerland, that should be the kind of thing, that should almost sound all of the alarms in U.S. soccer. And look, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything about the makeup of the squad. But it certainly is something that has to kind of resonate in that locker room. And it certainly has to be something that the guys who chose not to play in this tournament, especially the captain, Christian Pulisic, like, they have to look at it and say, was this a mistake? And by the way, if they don't feel like it was, like if this ultimately gets to a point where like Pulisic doesn't feel bad about it, some of these other guys who opted not to play in the Gold Cup, that they don't care, they're just like, hey, I needed my rest. It's going to be hard to make them the face of the World Cup in 2026. It's going to be really hard to essentially stick it to the guys who did care enough to come into camp and to try to represent their country, to then put those guys back out as the face of the program when they actively chose, not because of injury, they just actively chose not to play because they needed a break. It's not a good look. It genuinely is not. Let's see. Connor Buss says, people want to blame Pochettino, but he can only do so much with that talent. Top players don't want to play. MLS guys are just not good enough to compete with these top nations. There's truth to that. Jacob on YouTube says they won't be able to play in LA. We'll see. We'll see. Let's see. Connor Buss says, USSF, the Soccer Federation, is politics. It's all about money, just like the actual government, and said that it was a rare good take from Lawless. Reed DeFort says, summer international friendlies are horrible to begin with. Except this is, well, okay. Yes. That is true. They are awful. Pulisic should be playing. Let's see. He also says that these games are a snooze fest, just like an all-star game. There's some truth to that. Look, I know that we technically ended on a down note here. We were doing really well. We were feeling really good about things. We were bashing Chris Sims. Let's just kind of remember the positive moments that we had on the show today, shall we? Lock those in. Let those be your joyful moments of the day. And I'll see you guys on Friday. Do me a favor if you haven't done so already. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. It really does help the channel. It helps more people find the show. So like that video, share the video, subscribe, and if you can, leave a comment in the comments section below. You can let me know what you thought of Chris Sims' quarterback list. You can let me know if Christian Pulisic should never play a game again for the men's national team. You can let me know if you thought that Matvei Michkov was robbed. Let me know in the comments below, and I will get to as many of them as I can after the fact. I'll go back and forth with you in the video down below. If you listen to this in the podcast feed on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can leave a 5-star rating. If you're on Apple Podcasts, you can also leave a 5-star review, and I'll read it on the show. You can also find the show on Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and wherever you get your podcasts. Now, until Friday, this has been the Russ Joy Show. And I've been Russ Joy, but you knew that already because you're smart, and it's also the name of the show. I'll talk to each and every one of you on a fantastic Friday here on the Russ Joy Show. Until then, bye now.